This is what happened when paraglider Ewa Wisnierska flew right into a huge storm. Tossed like a doll, the helpless paraglider was sucked up thousands of into the freezing cold stratosphere. Darkness, lightning, blinding hail, and winds with incredibly high velocity were all around her. Her body started to freeze as she rapidly ran out of oxygen. But what followed was just jaw-dropping. Caught in a raging storm, the 35-year-old paraglider was sucked up to a height of 30,000 feet higher than Mount Everest. She miraculously endured lightning, tennis ball-sized hail, temperatures as low as -50 degrees, and oxygen deprivation. She came down to earth covered in ice and gasping for air, but alive. Doctors feared her brain damage, but apart from frostbiting and bruising, she was given a clean bill of health. In fact, during her ordeal into a span of the paraglider, the German adventurer was taken so high that she passed out for nearly 40 minutes. Ewa Wisnierska, a German paragliding champion, was standing atop Mount Bora in New South Wales, Australia, with 200 other paragliders. They were preparing to take off as part of their preparation for the Paragliding World Championship the following week. However, there was a warning. A few storm clouds had been seen to the north, and as the day went on, thunderstorm warnings became more serious. Ewa Wisnierska, who was strapped into her glider, made a strong run forward before launching herself into the air. The beginning of Ewa's journey was rather peaceful as she traveled north. She followed the mountain ridge from Mount Bora for about 12 miles before it ended and entered the skies over the vast savanna. And that's exactly where she was about to experience something bizarre. As Ewa Wisnierska's GPS and tracking log ticked, tracking her progress, two thunderstorm clouds appeared in front of her, one larger than the other. The weather suddenly altered in a matter of seconds. The larger cloud immediately swallowed up the smaller one, uniting them into a massive cumulonimbus cloud that was looming over the plains. It was now a massive storm system, 12 miles across. In an effort to maneuver around it and away from the updraft, Ewa was flying directly into its fury. But while Ewa's Austrian buddy raced to avoid the storm, he saw her disappear. Ewa Wisnierska was strapped into her paraglider inside the cumulonimbus cloud and rocketing skyward. She was being lifted by the storm at a speed of 60 feet per second, and she had no ability whatsoever to escape the wind tunnel. Ewa could hear huge claps of thunder coming from all around her, and she knew she was rushing into the storm's eye at its terrible center. She clutched the straps of her glider and begged to be thrown out of the cloud, but her vision had grown severely blurred. It grew icy cold as Ewa Wisnierska continued to be swallowed up by the storm in its vengeful cloak of night. She started shaking uncontrollably as she was rising in altitude at an astonishing rate. The glider was rising, and there was nothing she could do to stop it. Brutal orange-sized hail balls filled her harness and weighed her down as they pummeled her from all sides. Thousands of feet in the sky, Ewa Wisnierska blacked out. She floated, unconscious in her harness, passed out from lack of oxygen. By this point, the storm system had brought her all the way to the top of the cumulonimbus cloud, and there she drifted, suspended in the heavens. At her altitude, the temperature was 50 degrees below zero. Her face, her gloves, the wings of her glider, everything, became covered in ice. Peacefully, aimlessly gliding, high above the wrath of the storm, she lingered there for at least 40 minutes, unaware of how much time had passed. Then, something snapped. Due to the weight of the ice that had built up on Ewa's paraglider's wing, it gave way. In a terrifying free fall, Ewa started to descend from the sky. It appeared as though someone had just turned on gravity. She was falling while still being unconscious. In contrast to the ascent, Ewa's paraglider descended at a speed of 90 feet per second, directly into the eye of the storm. She was helpless to save herself. If she continued falling like this, she would be crushed upon impact with the ground. Her glider unaccountably and independently opened up, and the wings straightened out again. She slowly began to regain consciousness and looked around her and noticed that she was still caught in the snares of the thunderstorm. Her mind started to reanimate, but she could barely move her joints. Ewa Wisnierska was no longer falling or being sucked upward as she was now gliding once more. She needed to quickly land so that she could finally escape the storm's hold. Ewa's thoughts were racing. She was scarcely breathing, shivering, short of breath, and injured from the continuous hailstorm. But then she witnessed a breathtaking scene. Ewa finally saw the Earth's surface below her. The sheer thrill of seeing land was beyond words. Ewa Wisnierska started to steer herself downward as her instincts took over. In a wide-open field about 1,500 feet away from a farmhouse, she crash-landed her glider. But she was far from being in the clear. She was trying to warm up her body, and the sun was far from enough to help her. Ewa wanted to stand up, take off her harness, and move her body to get her blood flowing. The teammates of Ewa Wisnierska were on the phone. Ewa Wisnierska's crew finally made it to her, like angels on earth. They marveled at the quantity of enormous, weighty balls of hail that had accumulated inside there with her as they released her from the harness's straps. Yet at the hospital, the medical staff unexpectedly informed Ewa and her teammates that she was essentially fine and could leave.